Welcome back, Frontier family. Hope you're ready to learn more and earn more. In this episode, we have Paul Domish, the founder of Drifter Vans, a custom van life designer and builder, helping travelers find comfort and freedom. Paul, along with his team, has scaled this company from a cramped back corner warehouse crew to closing out 2024 in multi-million-dollar revenue. However, like most entrepreneurial journeys, Paul has endured many previous failed business ventures that all developed him where he is today. So, let's get into it. Paul, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on, Drew. I really appreciate it. And I guess you want to start off talking about all the failed ones first, huh?
Yes, sir. I mean, to be fair, we hyped you up only to build you back down, So if you could, right? The kind of a really good spot to start for us would be that general contracting operation out of Florida, right? Pre-2008, things were going good, right? Things were going good for yourself. Tell us a little bit how that was going.
Yeah, things were going great. I was very young. I was 19, and I came in during a hurricane. So I had a different type of business. I was doing landscaping before, got out of that, and then I basically just moved from Michigan to Fort Lauderdale, and I decided to be a general contractor without any experience whatsoever in construction. I started doing that though, but it was just so easy because there was so much work. It was so abundant. I didn't know what I was doing, but you're hiring subcontractors to actually do the work. So you're the trusting face, and then you find the people that actually do the work. So it was doing really, really well until 2008, basically. So it was like 2003, 2004 until 2008, and then everything just crashed. All the economies around the world, but South Florida was hit one of the hardest. And so it was a pretty rough go from doing very well and feeling like, okay, I'm 20, at the time 27 years old. Things are going well in my life. I didn't go to college or anything. I just always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'm making it. And just like that overnight, it's like, it's all gone, like all gone.
And so with that, as the market changed and things hit hard, what were some of the ways you were trying to reposition? How did you try to keep kind of the life alive?
Yeah. So I really didn't. I really bailed out. It was pretty quick for me to realize I made a mistake. And it was like the biggest learning lesson that I've ever had in business, and it completely changed the way that I do my business. Is now from everything starts in marketing for me now. I was a part of a niche market, and I looked around, and there was hundreds and thousands of contractors that came in. They flooded the area. There was all this work, and it was gone overnight. But what I looked at was, okay, so 80% of them failed, like me. What did that 10%? What did that 20% do? How are they hanging on? How are they going to survive this? And how have they been surviving it for 20 years? Because this is obviously has happened in booms in South Florida many times. And I went right to marketing. So it was marketing for me. It was like making a name, making a brand for yourself. That is, people talk about brands a lot, but it's also about the customer service. It's also about the care. It's not just a logo on the truck that brings your brand. And I didn't care about any of that. I was just like, I want to make as much money as I possibly can. I don't see where this is going. I'm not looking that far ahead. I'm going out to nightclubs in South Beach, living a good life. Like I wasn't thinking about that at all, being young and stupid, really. So that really, like, as far as lessons learned, that was the biggest lesson I've ever learned in business. And I do my business is completely different going forward now.
Absolutely. And kind of at some point what eventually led you around to developing the custom van line was a little bit of travel yourself, right? Like there's some internal looking. You were trying to figure out what was the next operation I was going to do, and you spent some time traveling. Tell us a little bit about that venture, eventually kind of how it led to, hey man, I want to start doing custom vans.
Yeah, so after 2008 was a really bad time for me. It was a bad time where it led me to drug addiction. So I started doing opiates, and I got hooked on those. I was working for an uncle as a contractor for a few years, working with him. And then I started a food truck then I got sober. And I got sober with my cousin. We were all actually doing it together. And it was sobriety that really just kind of woke me up. And when people talk about sobriety, they don't understand, like, when your mind has been being fed, that dopamine for so long that you don't understand the depression that happens after that feed. It's gone, because it's like it literally, you could describe it as like, what was like having your first kid? It was like, that was like how I felt on Tuesday, because I was getting this dopamine rush all the time. So there's a crash to that. And so me and my cousin Johnny, we started a food truck after that, and then started building food trucks. We were doing that, and it was just like, I was still miserable. And he actually recommended to me, he's like, hey, let's just go take a trip to South America for like a month. Let's go see Patagonia. Let's do something outside the box. We were in the food truck industry, so it was very seasonal. So like, okay, let's take a month. And then basically we went for a month, got back to Buenos Aires, the airport, after a month. And I just was like, I'm out, just send me what you think the business is worth. And I'm going to keep going for another year. So that really like changed my perspective. And then after that, I really wanted to do something in travel and tourism. All the businesses that I did before that were all out of survival. They were all, I was young, kicked out of my house, didn't go to college. So they were more like survival, and it was just more like scrappy. Like, hey, I need to pay rents, so I'll take a side job and I'll do this and I'll do that. But so that was the first time in my life where I could like actually like break away, take a year off, and really reflect on what type of businesses and not just business, but how I wanted to spend my time, and also the people I wanted to be around. And people that travel, I definitely am more like-minded, and who doesn't want to be a part of like people's adventures or travels. These are the memories that they'll have forever.
Absolutely. And to that point, you were able to turn what was kind of some addictive tendencies, which I think, as we've talked beforehand, those tendencies don't really go away. You just find a way to make them positive. Is that kind of correct? Like part of that is like a lot of what's really internal. So it's a lot of, okay, I need to turn this into something productive. I need to rebuild my confidence. Tell us a little bit how like you were able to turn, I know, a rough time in your life, but again, turning into a positive light that some people do struggle to do.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. It had a lot to do with my cousin Johnny. So my cousin Johnny is 10 years younger than me. He was just finishing University of Michigan, had got some degree that was pretty much useless to anything he wanted to do. He wants to be, he wanted to open a restaurant or whatever at the time. Just another one of those degrees, but he finished it. So he's 10 years younger than me. At this point, I'm 30, 32, 30. Yeah, I'm about 32, and he's 22. So we just ended up connecting, helping my uncle open up for nonprofit charity. So we connected, and then we started going through the addiction. We were the ones giving each other pills, and then all of a sudden we just both stopped, and we had this like awakening of like, what if we just did whatever we wanted to do? Like do I need drugs if I think like that? And that's kind of what it turned into, and it ended up being in trips to Nashville and just spending the next 2 years together building this food truck with just like reimagining things again. I'm just like, what, like, let's just go all in on everything that we do. And you do find by going to like the meetings, the A's and stuff, and so many addicts in business and in other areas, that when they do that and they transform that, they go all in on something, and amazing results can happen.
And for you to kind of go full circle, the all in was saying, hey, I'm going to stay in Bolivia. I'm going to keep going on this adventure, right? I'm going to keep learning about Patagonia. It wasn't Bolivia, but either way, that was kind of your all in. Hey, I'm going to spend an extra year here doing this and kind of keep figuring out what I want to do. Am I on the right page?
Yeah. So it was definitely like that. But it was more of like taking time to actually think. I was out of my house when I was 15. So I never had like a moment to like actually like, what do you want out of your life, Paul? It's always like, well, you got to get to the next thing, next bill or whatever. So for me, the timing was very important. And if I had that time in my 20s, I doubt that I would have used it as well as I did in my 30s, having the experiences that I've had. So for me, it was more about like a perfect timing. And it was just traveling throughout South America, understanding different cultures, and it really just opened my whole world up of how I saw people, and I believe travel is good for your soul. And I say to everyone, just go do it, just figure it out, go do it.
And to touch on a little bit, right? You're still traveling, you're still involved. You're part of the job. I know we're kind of foreshadowing pretty heavy here, but part of the where you've got the van business now is you're still able to live that out.
Yeah, exactly. So like during that time, I mean, I made a real effort to go, okay, so what do I want for my life? It wasn't so much like, okay, what type of business do I want? It's like, what kind of life do I want? And I think people skip that where it's like, well, if I make $2 million a year, I'll be really happy. It's like, yeah, but if you're, going into a place that you hate, or you're stuck in a place, or you need to work 60 hours a week and you can only get away for 2 weeks out of the year, those $2 million aren't that valuable. And I'm somebody who does want to have money. So I'm not saying like, I'm a hermit that can just live very simple. I do enjoy businesses and I like to make money off of businesses, but it is a lot of, forethought that I put into it of going, okay, so if I have this business, like for example, the one in Detroit, it was, I need to have a partner who's there on the ground, and I will do the sales, marketing, the president. I can do these things from different locations because of technology. Go Together is another company that I started down here in South America. It was a tour and activity booking platform. And the idea of that is that puts me in different places. Like I can test it in one place, move to a different country, do that. Starting another company down here, the very similar things. Anything I start, it's very easy to be distracted by like, okay, this is a good idea. I can make money off of that. But then there's everything else that comes along with that. And so every morning I have something that I read, and it's kind of it's like a prayer, but it's also something that keeps me on track because, as a ADD person, which I'm sure you guys are as well, it's very easy when you hear a good idea, you can start getting excited about it. You're like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I want to be a part of that. I don't want to miss out on that. That sounds like a great opportunity. But then it's also like, it anchors you back to go, it's a great idea. If you need help with it, let me know. I'll advise you on it. But that's not the track I want to go on, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. And just building off what you're talking about there, like what about that experience when you said, hey, what do I need out of my life? And then what can I do for a business that supports that, but I'm productive and help other people with that? What about Drifter Vans was kind of the go for you? What made you jump into it and run with it?
Yeah, well, so Drifter Vans, it wasn't meant to be. Like, to be completely honest, it was a timing thing. I was supposed to be moving to Bolivia, and the pandemic literally happened a month before I was supposed to leave. So I sold everything I had. I had nothing. I had no place to live. I had family members who were nice enough, my uncle Mitch and Aunt Janine, who allowed me to stay with them during the time during COVID happened. So I had all my money, all of my intent, all of my interest at that time. I mean, at least 2 years of prepping for this new venture, and really just had no money left because everything was going into that. So what I did is it was my birthday, and my cousin Johnny, who was my friend, he was like, hey, let's go to Yellowstone, for your birthday. And then a couple other cousins from California came out, and we ended up going to Yellowstone. And I just saw one of these vans. And I looked at these vans, and I'm like, this is so cool. And like, being from the Midwest, you don't see these. So like my California cousins are like, yeah, bro, they're everywhere, man. Van life is like the thing to do. I'm like, what's van life? I didn't know anything about that. Seriously, this is only 5 years ago now. So they like educated me. The guy let me like look into his van. I got back in the truck, and I said, I'm gonna start a company that builds vans. And everyone, my cousin was very supportive, was like, Paul, what are you talking about? This pandemic thing, it's going to be a few more months, just stay on track with what you're doing. And I was like, no, I'm definitely going to do it. And yeah, so then that's how the idea of Drifter Van started. And basically how it started was testing it, was just taking the idea, because the first thing everyone told me is like, well, you need to go buy a van, you need to build a van out, you need to go do this, you need to go hire people, you need to get rent, you need insurance, workers' comp, and they're right. Like, that is a rational way to look at it. And it's like, okay, so really do the math on everything, you're talking about $250,000 of investment, at least a year of time of building it all out while you're making no money, to showcase a van that you built. So what I did, and it's something I just learned from reading a lot of business books. A lot of them talk about it, and it's usually more the tech books that talk about testing and getting through testing quickly. And so I was like, okay, so instead of me doing all of that, what I did is I went online, I created a website, hired somebody to do the renderings, make 3 renderings. I sat there with a tape and I measured out like on the kitchen floor of the place that I was staying, how big the space was, where the seats should be, and I made 3 layouts, and I had somebody make renderings off of that, and I just priced everything out of what I thought it would cost for the material, labor, all of that, completely guessing at that point, and I put it online, and I put it on a few different websites, Facebook, this that. And then I was like, okay, so I'm like $5,000 into it, maybe $6,000, and let's see if people actually want these before I start building them. And what ended up happening is I ended up selling 16 before I had a lease on a space. So I was already collecting deposits, and I didn't even have a lease building. I didn't have my insurance, which honestly it's completely legal. I didn't need it at the time. So yeah, so with $5,000, I took something, and then I took people's deposits, and I used that toward funding the business.
Absolutely, because you tell someone, hey, I got to self-fund $250,000 versus, hold on, if I pre-sale, that self-funding kind of comes down initially to like $5,000, right? Versus going full-fledged $250,000, hey, I got to get all this set up beforehand, just have something to showcase. Let me pre-sale, let me render, let me measure it out, let me get you a general idea, and you pre-sold 16 from a $5,000 investment.
Right.
And it sounds like you returned with down payments.
Yeah. So basically it was funded. I didn't have to go back after in a year and go like, okay, so now I need a couple $100,000. I was basically, how the structure works is it's like construction is you pay a 50% deposit to get started. So that's 2 months before. So they're paying for their materials before, they're paying for, things before. So it was literally just started funding off of their profits. Now, to be completely clear, I was a general contractor for nearly 17 years. I had a ton of experience and I've also built food trucks. So I had an experience where I knew I wasn't just like a scam artist off the road trying to get deposits from people with having no idea what I was doing. So to be clear, I did have a background in this type of a business.
Absolutely. I think that's something that most people recognize as well, right? Like a lot of what makes entrepreneurs successful is those ventures that come before it, right? By having that backing, whether it be failed venture in a marketing agency or whatever, it's by having that experience and knowing about it, it turns into the next venture. And so I think, to your point, I don't think you need to preface it at all, right? It's something you already put time and blood into, that you just found a new way to turn it into a successful business. I think that's
absolutely. And there's something that I always tell people that from my learned lessons when I was young. You got to remember too, when I'm young, so I'm 41. So we're talking about 18 years old. I'm still using Windows 97, right? So the internet, Google, YouTube, ChatGPT, these things didn't exist. So to have like a business idea, I'll use one example. I was 21, so this is like 2002. So the iPhone's not out yet, okay, or maybe like 2004. But anyways, so I had an idea for organic dog food. I just started like learning about the market. I don't really have a great passion for animals, but I just started learning about like the crap they're putting into dog food. So just start like investigating. So like I'm 2 years into investigating something where it's just like, why did I just spend 2 years on looking at something instead of figuring out a quick way to test it, see if people actually care about it, and then moving on? Because then if you need an investor, if it's a type of business where you do need more money, you can show them really quick that like, hey, I put 10 grand into this. These are the results from it. Not just doing surveys. Everyone will be like, yeah, I like your product. But like for like clothes, well, hey, just get fake t-shirts and fake, things and pre-sale it. Or, there's a lot of clever ways with the internet, with many types of businesses where people will pre-order things and get involved in those types of things. So the biggest takeaway that I got from being young to being older is speed. Is like, okay, don't sit on an idea for a year. Don't sit on something for 6 months, act on it. Like, okay, figure out your market, come up with a plan of some sort of a business plan that they are good to have. They're good architecture for you to at least have thought everything out, and then figure out a way to test it. Figure out, be clever. If you want to open a restaurant or pop-ups or whatever it is, you just got to move fast. Stop talking about ideas that you've had for 3 years, because I don't want to hear about them in 3 more years. And there's a lot of people that do that.
Absolutely. And it sounds like too the ability to utilize the assets now is really to be able to start small and scrappy, right? To your point, before you have any major foundations ahead, you could start with, to your point, a 200 square foot workspace, right? You pre-sold 16 of them and you built them out of a back corner of a warehouse, right? So it's like things are available to move business faster. To your point, the speed of response is huge. But tell us about that scrappy nature kind of for what started the company here. Like, so hey, the vans are pre-sold. Now I got to find people, right? I can either build them all myself or I can get the local designers or builders to help me out. Talk a little bit about those initial days and how you, again, went from year 1, year 2, year 3, and kind of where you're at now.
Yeah, yeah. So very difficult. So I never built a van. I never put a screw. You might see a couple pictures in there, but they were definitely promo pictures. If you see a drill in my hand, and my team will tease me about it. But I've never built a van. So that's something I also learned in Florida, that I'm a better manager, or I'm better at the other side than I am at actually the construction side. When you get too involved in the one side, like Elon Musk is a crazy person that he's so into um the engineering part of it. It just blows my mind. But he's a special creature. But I see someone like him that does both the things, and it's just like, how do you have the time, the brain capacity? And it's like, oh, you're Elon Musk. But no, so I never built a van, and so finding the people, it was very easy, but it was very hard because it is building a camper van, and I have some very talented carpenters. Even like a couple of my carpenters, they're educated, went to furniture school. But it's different. There's curves. There's different things that you're not considering in building a house. Just finding like an electrician. This is all 12 volts, 48 volts. This is completely different. Plumbing. This isn't plumbing a house. So finding the right people in a state like Michigan, even though there's so many great craftsmen, so many talented people, that's what we do in Detroit. We build things. Like it was a little bit tough finding the right people. We did, like, one of the biggest things that happened is we brought in somebody, and just by luck, he moved here because his girlfriend, she wanted to be closer to his family, or her family, and he moved from Washington, and he had over 10 years of experience working in vans. And he came in and he goes, yeah, so let's do it like this now, or let's do it like this, or I got an idea, very nicely, very humbly, and came in, and he definitely made a big difference in the quality and the procedures and the way we did things. But no, very difficult. But after, like my rule of thumb is if you have 70%, 80%, and you like 70 to 80% of your workforce, I think you're succeeding in business. And at this point right now, I have 100% of a workforce that I love, all of them, and they're all great. So I'm just very happy at this moment and blessed with that.
And does the entrepreneurial spirit kind of thrive through the company as well? Do they all kind of feel connected to the success of the company and also kind of benefit from it as well?
Yeah. I definitely think they do, especially the ones earlier on that have been there, that saw the struggles that we went through. And, they didn't see a lot of the struggles of just payroll and, trying to figure out how to make, the bottom line every month. And they didn't see those things, but they did see the development, because it was just, I would go in there every weekend. It was just like, okay, so let's change this out. So we need a paint booth, or, let's get a blow up, they have like blow up paint booth. So let's try this. And like so many things that we tried and it just made it keep working and made it keep working. The people that were there 4 or 5 years ago, that even some of them have come back. And I really do see a sense of pride in not just the work they do, but the company itself, of being a part of building something like that. In Detroit, we're pride people. We're prideful people. So we really do take great pride in our city, and manufacturing might be a thing of the past, but in Detroit, it's definitely not.
Absolutely. The spirit lives on in the Midwest states. I will say that. Kansas was a huge mindset shift there as well. So. But no, so sticking with that, right, it sounds like they were obviously heavily involved in improving the efficiency and the quality as well. How did you kind of manage to stay on top of improving things, bringing in new processes or new equipment or new whatever, but then still seeing like kind of double returns on your revenue year over year? Like what was the process kind of heavily focused? Was it on improving the equipment and process, or more so kind of on your side, the marketing, the sales, the pushing? Where did you kind of see the ability to scale that revenue?
Well, it was definitely both. So so that's why I have a partner, and that's why I'll always have a partner in every business I do. I am not the manager. I'm the, I hate to say, but like I'm the person who starts things. I'm the idea guy. I kind of like, keep things moving around. I hate to say like visionaries. I'm definitely not a visionary, but I have just like, I see what's happening next. I'm studying what's happening next. So it was a combination. So it allowed me to focus a lot on the marketing, spending a lot of time with videographers and photographers and reading books and like trying to understand like how to fit in this market. And like I was saying earlier, how important I knew that it was going to be coming from 2008, a construction business that was a huge boom. I'm looking at this going, okay, so if I don't learn this lesson from 2008, then I'm a fool, because I know that there's going to be 200 van companies within the matter of a year that are all going to, anyone who can swing a hammer, that go, I can build a van. And there was no regulations on it. So I knew that from the beginning. So I knew, and I told Kim, like, Kim, I really need to focus on marketing. We really need to have a presence on YouTube, on Instagram. So when this happens, when that flood happens, and then when it starts going down, and when you start seeing these companies go out of business, we're the ones that people remember. We're the ones that have the audience. We're the ones that will remain out of that top 20, 10%, like we were talking about in Florida earlier. So by having a partner, it allowed me to be very, very hyper-focused on that side, while Kim was on the development side.
Hey, Frontier family. If you're finding value in today's episode, then Nathan and I want to tell you about a Facebook and LinkedIn community we're trying to grow of like-minded entrepreneurs who want to learn more to earn more. We share and discuss relevant topics, strategies, ideas, and overall ways to grow your net worth. So if you're interested in learning more, check down in the description of this video or this podcast to find the links to those pages. All right, let's get back into it. And just because I know it's a conversation we had off camera, this idea between the intrapreneur and entrepreneur, is that kind of the love marriage relationship between partners? Like you want someone who's very entrepreneurial, like to your point, not necessarily visionary. Visionary is kind of a weird word that's sometimes used, but like very much like, yeah, we're running.
It's so arrogant. The visionary is an arrogant word. Like, so but I don't know the better word. Like seeing something in the future. It's kind of what you're doing. So it kind of is, but there needs to be a better word, I think.
Absolutely. But like that idea between like the entrepreneur and entrepreneur, is that kind of relationship that you and Kim have, or where do you kind of see that playing out?
Yeah. And like a lot of people, like, so the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur are both people who want to start businesses, right? And there's definitely no insult at all, because the entrepreneur is just as important as the entrepreneur. And there's so many cases. So everybody, you could talk about Steve Jobs, for example, right? Steve Jobs had him, obviously, I'll call him a visionary. Steve Jobs was a visionary, had the ideas of all these products and everything. But there's also people in the background, and Tim Cook. Tim Cook is an entrepreneur. Tim Cook worked for Steve Jobs, and he worked for Apple for over 20 years or something like that before he made his way up to the president. So there's a lot of CEOs, there's a lot of presidents, there's a lot of vice presidents. The guy who runs Microsoft, the CEO of Microsoft, he's an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of success in entrepreneurship, and in just partnerships. Like if it's something. There's a book. It's called The Toyota Way. Okay, I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's a very popular manufacturing book. But like inside the book, it's joked about in the Japanese culture of why Americans, this is in the 80s and 90s, were falling so far behind. It's because they have, 4 people steering and 3 people rowing, right? So that becomes a problem when there's too many people have their hands in the pot, and there's not one person that's making like the final decisions at the end. Because if you're going off in 3 different directions, well, I'll tell you right now, you're going to fail.
Absolutely. And I think kind of keeps to that point too. You guys are positioned in such a way that you're saying, hey, even when some of these vans will fail, kind of to your experience from your previous ventures, right? We're going to be a good spot to grow through that. So outside of that, do you feel like there's any like factors to Drifter Vans itself setting you apart from the competitors?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Drifter Vans came in as like the outside of what was in the market. So that 2 weeks of like that really hardcore market research I was telling you about that I did before launching and testing. it was pretty simple. Go through, look at competition. What are they building? What are they building? What are they building? Just quick looks. It's like, yep, it's masculine. Looks like a dude built it. It looks like a fun like rig for me and my boys to go out, and go on an adventure, hook some snowmobiles up with, and go have fun. Like that's what it looks like. But it was so like masculine, so manly, I like that stuff, but I also like comfort. I like cozy. I'm like, yeah, but because then you can see the other ones, and all the other ones were the DIY ones. And there was a huge market of DIY, which is do-it-yourself people that are building it themselves. And they're building these like little cute cottages, very homey feeling. Like, so I was seeing what the DIY was doing. And I was seeing what the market was doing. I was like, well, why isn't somebody in the market build what the DIYers want? So what we did, one of the first things I did is called my mom's old friend I've known her my whole life, called Kathleen. And I asked her, hey, would you like to do the interior design for these vans? And that was like one of the biggest decisions in the beginning that really changed us and separated us from our competition, is we were very, very focused in on that. And then outside of that, I mean, it's such a cliche that you hear, but it's the customer experience. And it's just highly, highly focused on the customer experience. That customer experience is the equipment that you're putting into it, how they feel during the process, how they feel after the process. So it's making it more of a family environment than just buying a van from a company. And that's what we're working on. And I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to improve on it.
And I will say too, because I kind of looked into like your process of what it was going through, because to your point, your marketing is so well, like walking you through that process already makes me feel like engaged, that if I was to go with you, man, I'm involved as almost every step I can be on. When you're building this band, you're keeping me updated. Like, so there's definitely like a personal engagement there that makes you feel trusted, right? Like that there's a massive part with that. So just for someone new, maybe looking to kind of do, hey, I want to do some pre-release stuff. I want to make people feel engaged. That customer experience is huge. Talk us through kind of developing that consultation process and how I could make it work for my own personal business venture or my own products. Do you mind kind of sharing some helpful information?
Yeah, so it's touch points. So it comes back to tech, where people if you're in business now, and if you're not reading tech books, and there's a couple of great ones that I'll recommend. Is Contagious is one of them. So, and then the other one, it's my favorite. Oh goodness, flipping my mind. Hook Point, I think it's called Hook Point. Don't ask me the authors, but it really just helps you with the psychology of touch points throughout a user experience. And now everything that we do, you might not be a platform, you might not be, Facebook, or you might not be YouTube or something like that, but you have touch points and how somebody finds you, how they're engaged with you, how they feel at certain points along the process. If it's all the way from the first time they found you on a Google ad, right? Maybe they just looking up custom camper vans. They came across a picture, that first picture, and then it takes them to a website and makes them feel a certain way, how the consultation was booked, like how they felt for that, how were the email correspondence after that, were they friendly, were they pushy, the phone call, like, everything is involved in those touch points that I am obsessed about. Like that is where I get obsessed of how people feel.
And I think to the point you kind of keep bringing up, it's crazy how like something that's heavily used in the tech sector applies to a lot of business nowadays, because you kind of have to be involved in tech, right? You still have to have a website. You still have to have like, it's all still very much involved. So I love, to your point, that like there's still, even if you think you know all about the business you want to start up, hey, learn about the tech side, because they're doing it different and you're kind of behind if you're not.
100%, because now your website is your storefront. We used to, which we still do, walk into a storefront. I have a cousin who just opened up a golf simulator business, and like looking at his golf simulator business, that, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's his storefront, but this is my storefront. So I can reach 350 million people around our country that can have a chance to go to my storefront. How do they feel after going to my storefront and then going to my competition, which is around 200 other builders? Do they feel better in mine? Are they going to, am I promoting something that is something they want, that the other competitors' storefronts? Because they're going like this too. and they're going fast. And guess what? They looked at 10 of them that day. It could be a Saturday afternoon. It's raining out. They've looked at 10 competitors. What did you do? Did you do anything to re-engage them, retarget them, get them back to your storefront? Like all of those things are so, so important. So if you're starting a business and you don't get tech, I'm sorry, I'm 41 and you're much younger than I am. I think you're failing by not reading tech books and understanding the psychology of people and because everyone talks about like the people can only pay attention for 3 seconds or 6 seconds. It's not true. It's because people are putting, I don't know if I can say this, but shit out, like, because there's a lot of crappy things. But if you create something good, people will sit down for a 10-minute video and watch a 10-minute video.
And so in that case, does your long form kind of become more of your productive touch points? Like your front end is maybe just getting someone to click on the Instagram page or click on the ad or whatever. You want to then follow kind of that initial touch point up with something a little bit lengthier or a little bit more involved. Is that kind of and I'm not trying to get your whole sales funnel approach, just maybe the first 2 steps, first 3 steps.
Well, no, it's absolutely fine. So what we do is we put a lot of videos. So, I mean, I can tell you our average traffic, from the first year that I started, because we have no content, no anything, would be like the average would be, 45 to 1 minute of, of traffic time. Now my traffic time is like up to 10 minutes, 12 minutes per person, because there's so much to see. There's videos to watch, there's blogs to read, there's so much to engage them into it. And then there's always a touch point to, hey, book a consultation, get more information, learn about this, always trying to give them, information that keeps them engaged. Because there's a lot of questions. It's a big purchase. So in this business, it is a little bit different because you're looking at, somewhere between 100, like including the van, $150,000 to $250,000 investment. This isn't like, it's not an impulsive decision where you're like, you know what? Those sandals, those are cool. Click, you put it in Amazon, it doesn't really matter that much. It's $25, but these are like big decisions and people are shopping out, so you just got to be front of mind and really separate yourself.
Absolutely. And again, kind of going back to like me exploring your page now and thinking about it, it's not really like a true funnel in that way. It's that I have the ability to kind of choose and pick the touch points that I care about. Like if I care more about what was your design process or what can I expect of the consultation, I can kind of direct that versus like a typical sales funnel is like, no, you follow steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Is that kind of the approach?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like you were in the driver's seat. There is not a client that I talk to on a regular basis, at least 10 times a week, where they go, it's either I watched every one of your YouTube videos over the weekend, which at this point we have like 200, videos. So we have like a lot of videos. I'm like, you really just spent your whole weekend watching our videos, or it'll be a couple telling us that. But every one of our clients watches all of our videos, watches all of the content, watches people get excited about those. So I think that YouTube is a great tool. I think that doing podcasts, I think what you guys are doing is great. I would like to start my own, but I guess I still have time.
Definitely a commitment. But no, I love that because getting a little bit salesy here, like, and there's different terms for it, but essentially what comes to you is like very motivated customers, right? Again, there's a bunch of different terms and ways to explain that, but essentially, right, to your point, they consumed all that you had and realized, no, I want this guy. Like there is no question of, I don't have to sell this person at this point, right? And this is not the approach, but like, there's nothing I have to do to necessarily convince them or keep them moving forward. Like they're coming to me because they consumed all this. Said, no, I want you to make my van.
Sure. Yeah. There is that, but no, just like any industry, you have people that are like, so what does it cost? Oh, I was looking for something for $20,000. Like, that didn't really, so you're always going to get those. The rule of thumb really is, for out of every 50 leads you're going to get, you're going to close to 1% and 3%, right? So it's a good rule of thumb to live by. It's not exact in every, industry, but it's a pretty tried and true method of it's a numbers game, just like anything else. You know what I mean? But yeah, like a lot of times you will just get those people like, okay, I haven't called you because I haven't wanted to bother you yet. But they close within 3 days because they've been reading and they know the website, they know the brand, they know what they want without talking to me. And then there's people that'll talk to me 2 years before, and then calling me up and be like, okay, so we're ready to make a decision. So this is actually, as far as sales goes, since the pandemic, it usually takes between 6 months to a year for people to make decisions typically.
Okay, and that's going through like the consultation process. Like is that kind of a delay in itself? Is that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
timeline?
It's
Okay.
it's yeah. It's basically like, okay, so I'm retiring, next year, and I'm thinking about this, or I'm in a remote work. I finally got a really good job, and I'm making good money now. So I need to save for a down payment. Like and it's taking me about a year to get to where I need to be. There's a lot of different scenarios. Most of the clients, though, what's really interesting about van life and why I love the people in van life, it's everyone, just about everyone, people just don't buy them as toys. Like my clientele, they're usually going through something in their life. It's going through a death, a retirement, um, divorce, just a job change of like I've been doing something I hate for so long. So it's obviously this is a huge adjustment in someone's life from living, if you were in an apartment or a house or whatever your living condition was before, you're living in a van now with a Starlink on the roof, and you're either working from there, making a living or from it, or you're retired, just traveling around the country, doing odd jobs or doing whatever. There's a lot of different stories, but it's a transformation. So the type of people that I meet on a daily basis are very cool.
And it seems like, again, year over year, you're growing the pre-sales, you're growing the actual bills, you're growing the revenue, and you're getting in front of more people. How do you kind of foresee a lot of that growth continuing? How do you get in front of more customers? How do you get in front of more retirees? What's kind of your approach moving forward that you'll keep kind of the drifter bands grow?
Yeah, so there's a threshold of growth that I probably don't want to succeed or exceed. That you can definitely grow too big and grow too fast. I don't want to be Winnebago. I don't. There isn't really a market for what we do. I get Earthroamer. I don't know if you know them. They build like those huge $800,000 you've ever seen those? They're like trucks. They can basically go anywhere. Anyways, but they're more like a niche business. So I would say there is a spot that I would want to stop at as far as growth. It's not as much about the quantity we do, about the quality that we do. Because what's really beautiful, to be honest with you, that I can say no to clients. Like I have a certain amount of spots per year, and if I don't want to work with you, no. And people are like, "What do you mean? You're not going to take my money?" Like, nope, we're good. Like this isn't a good relationship, And I don't say that, but sometimes you do, where I have the ability to say no. So I always want to have that ability to say no, because what that does is it creates a culture inside your shop that your people aren't stressed out, like talking about this, I got to deal with this lady or, this guy, he's such a jerk to work with. So it helps with the morale, definitely, where people come in, they're just excited to see, like, because they've been, because you got to think about it from the builder's perspective. This name and these prints and all of these items that they want and the interior design, all this stuff has just been this idea on a board for the last 3 months for them. And now they actually see the person who came up with the idea, fly in from Washington or wherever they came from. So it's kind of a cool experience for them to be a part of that. And I think it helps the morale by keeping just bad people out, or people you don't want in that inner circle. Because now what we have is like a Facebook group. So all the clients, they have a place to get together. It's like a private Facebook group. So we can do meetups, travel advice, stopping in each other's houses on the way through to places. So it's more of a family, more of a community, and weeding those people out. So I guess the answer to the question is yes, I do want to grow to a certain extent, but I would probably say like around 100 to 150 vans a year would be like the max of where I would want to be, where I feel like we could give really good customer service still in a community.
Absolutely. And again, not that I'm not trying to wrap money into it, but just to your point, since a lot of it comes down to the perception and the stress of the company itself, is that also with the intention to kind of keep it self-funded, or is there any intention to bringing investors in? And if I just want to preface it a little bit, I recognize that sometimes bringing investors in adds stress to the situation. So is that kind of, what's kind of your approach with that?
No, I have no problem bringing investors in. For a company that needs it, I absolutely have no problem bringing investors in. Yeah, I would bring investors into Drifter Vans. At this point, it's just not the best time. We've kind of just went through a recession of some sort. If you look at like the U.S. house debt, it's higher than it's ever been since 2010, which is after our last recession. So kind of there's some indicators of like where our economy is at right now. So over the last year, growth hasn't been my like, the thing that's on top of mind. It's more improving the systems, improving the production. So when that time it comes, that they're all going to flow and it'll all be ready to go. If that makes any sense, timings are
Absolutely. When the market's ready to come right back, you're right there. You'll crank it up to grow with us.
But when it starts bringing investors in, it can pretty much. I mean, this seems to be more like of a business that it can pretty much, for the most part, be self-funded with lines of credit. With maybe a little bit of outside money, but not too much to get to that place where I'm talking about sweet point where it's a cool business, but it's not too stressful. I don't need to be the next Winnebago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, and kind of bring it all full circle. Now, I know we foreshadowed on it, but now you're in a position, right, where a lot of your time is more so spent on developing that. The company's running. You have the local managers. It's growing. It's doing a thing, and now you're able to live out your dream, right? Now you're out here living in areas you want to be, developing new businesses. Tell us a little about kind of where you're at now and how that has been able to be what you want out of life.
Yeah, well, it's really cool because so the first person I called, I had a partner. I was living, well, I wasn't living there, but I had a Brazilian girlfriend at the time. So this is like, like when I first started the business, I met her in Bolivia and I was in Brazil, and the two guys that I had working on the vans, they called me up one day and they quit. Right. So I'm on vacation in Brazil. They're like, we're not doing this anymore. I don't see where this is going. We don't trust your vision, blah, blah, blah. We know better than you, that typical story. So, so I go on, what are the job finding sites, Indeed and whatever. So I, put out an application like immediately, like, okay, so I need to find new carpenters, whatever, like, let's keep going. And, the next day I get a call from a guy, Rick, and he calls me up and he's like, dude, I just saw your thing. I've been building cabinets for 20 years, or I've been building cabinets and boats. He built boats for, over 25 years of experiences. I have experience running shops. I build my own camper van. I love what you're doing. And I already had a ticket, to go home because all of this happened. So I'm like, cool, I'll meet you in 2 days. And in 2 days later, I go and I meet with this guy, Rick, and I still talk to him. He's retired now, but he just retired last year. But, I told him my vision, like, okay, so this is what I need. I need a foreman that can be here, that can run the shop. And within the next few years, I want to be completely out where I don't need to be in Detroit, that everything is running, and that I'm living in South America and I'm starting these other businesses that I want to do. And, he pulled me aside, before he left, and he goes, dude, you're doing exactly what you planned on doing. Like you're living your dream. It's your dream. It's, not for everybody, but it's something that you said that you were going to do. And I'm really proud of you. And, that meant a lot.
Absolutely. And now you're looking at, even to your point, you're looking at new ventures now where you are. Hey, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity there, right? You can keep growing or stick with what you have as you want. And I think that's huge. Now you have some freedom, the flexibility, the dream. You have a lot to go want to get to.
Yeah. And it's, like the roads are different for everyone. You guys are young, and I hope you listen better than I listened when I was in my early 20s. And you can be a know-it-all. It's very easy to do. But definitely focusing on what you really want in your life, and remember that as you join ventures or as you start things, it's like, no, this takes away from this, takes away from too much of this. Like, because you only have so much time in a day. And if you start doing things that aren't inside of that, box of the things that you really want, you're going to end up outside of where you're going to go somewhere you didn't want to go. So it's definitely something to focus in on. But yeah, no, it's cool. Like starting different businesses, and then partnerships. That would be the other thing I would tell people is partnerships are the most important thing. It's like having a girlfriend, but probably even more so because you're going to have more ups and downs than a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, either way. So having good partners that complement each other, that have respect for each other is a very important thing to do. And it allows you to do more things. Like, I can start another company with a partner down here because he does the things that I suck at.
And obviously, you just gave two really good things to be aware of. But is there anything that either we have or haven't talked about today that you would really want to give as advice to somebody looking to start their own venture, to kind of get out there and find their own success?
Yeah. The biggest thing is don't spend too much time overthinking it. Test fast. Figure it out. Test fast. Go through it. Go through your ideas. The saddest thing to see is somebody who doesn't know their own potential or know what they're actually good at. And that's why, I broke down an entrepreneur. Like, it's okay to be either. You can be very, very successful and do very well doing either one of those. There's nothing more sad to me watching someone's like, you're so talented. Why can't you just know that you're like really, really, really good at that? And if you hyper focus in on that and stop trying to do the other thing and the other thing, man, you're going to flourish. You're going to do really well.
And obviously, you're speaking from a lot of experience and knowledge. Were there any podcast, books, what would you have for someone that you would recommend for like educational content that, again, I know you mentioned, I think it was Contagious and Hook Point. Do you have any like on top of that you would recommend for someone to really kind of get caught up to speed with?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. Those are two really good ones. Tipping Point is another really good one. I read, so I make sure that I spend 30 minutes reading every day. So no matter what's going on, I'll always take 30 minutes to read at least something. Alex Hermosi, I think his name is. I just read his $1 million leads or something like that. Is that what it's called?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, like his stuff. I'd like to read more than I like to listen. PVD podcast is one that I like. As far as business sides of things, I appreciate. Not so many podcasts. I mean, I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but it's more like stupid. It's like, it's more like Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn. Just silly things, just to get away from the world sometimes.
Absolutely, step to relax.
Yeah. Sometimes the podcasts, they're just too intense. They get so in depth, and you can walk away like Alex Hermosi. He's such a good salesperson. After you watch a few of his videos, you're like, yeah, this is the only way to run a business. And then, but that's what like a lot of young people feel like. No, he's right. He's right about this. He's right about this. It's like, yeah, but that's one out of like 6,000 different ways it can be done. But he is right. I'm not saying he's wrong. He's very smart, but like it kind of pigeonholes people into like, this is the way it has to be now. Like, and it changes and things adapt. So,
well, if anyone wanted kind of your take on their business idea or wanted to know more about Drifter Vans or your other ventures, how can people kind of get a hold of you? Do you have like LinkedIn? Are you available on email? What's something you feel be willing to provide for someone like that?
Yeah. You can find me. I guess. Yes, I do have a LinkedIn. It's Paul Domish. I'm on LinkedIn or Paul Domish at driftervans.com. You can reach me on there. If you have an idea, let me know. Let me know. Let me see if I can help you out.
Absolutely. And to that point, we appreciate all the things you've said today, all your advice, all your knowledge. We definitely appreciate it and respect it and wish nothing but the best for you, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time, and it was really nice to meet both of you, and hopefully in the future we can talk again, and then I can interview you about your successes.
Yes, sir. Hopefully one day.
All right, guys. Have a great one.